Hi everybody, this is Ellen. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a happy star. I think it's so awesome. Making a star on the loom is extremely difficult, I think, and it's been, most people make it on the hook or like my star that I made a long time ago. That was kind of a crazy thing that went down the side of the loom. So this one is pretty kind of straightforward from how we've been making the other, like the happy foods and happy things and figures. So I'm super excited. I love it. I think it's super adorable. It's awesome. I love it so much. Band-wise, it's 233 bands to make the entire thing. So we'll get started. So first, you want your cheeks, which is just one band, whatever color you want the cheek to be, on the hook. Wrap it around into a figure 8. Grab both bands, wrap them around again, and then pull through 2 bands that are the color of your star. Like that. So then that's one cheek, so you want to make 2. And then for your eyes, these are the 7mm pony beads. They're the smaller beads. This is the normal 9mm pony beads. I'm going to actually try and use these in the tutorial and see what it looks like, because I just want to see if bigger eyes makes it look more adorable. But if you want to make the smaller eyes, you either use the 7mm pony beads or you use one band and you put it on your hook. This would be whatever your eye color is. Wrap it around, grab both bands, wrap them around again, and then pull through 2 bands that are the color of your star. So that'd be for the smaller eye, and then if you wanted to have a bigger eye but you don't have the beads, use 2 bands here instead. So, and I'll put the bands through these when we get there. But that is really all the hook prep work, I guess. So put those aside. Then we have our loom, wrong end towards us. And we're going to start by making some of the points, the little parts right here on the ends. We're going to make all 5 of them ahead of time, but we only use like 3 for the first little bit. So what they are, it's 3 bands on the hook, double them, then grab all the bands, double them again. And then you'll pull through 4 bands through this. So you have like that. So I'm going to put my first one just way down here, out of the way. Now we need to make 4 more of those. So 3 bands, wrap it around, pull through 4 bands. And sometimes it helps to just kind of twist it over if you need to do it that way. So my second one, I'm going to put on the other end of the loom, out of the way. And again, 3 bands, twist it, pull through 4 bands. So what I mean by twisting is if you get it to the end, and then you can kind of just twist it over the top if you can't seem to grab them all and lift them up to pull them over. Like that. This one will go in the center, center-ish, around the 7th pin up on the sides here. And then we'll go ahead and separate this one out. So I'm going to grab the top 2 bands. I'm just going to move them up. And I'll do that on both sides. Just 2. Doesn't really matter what 2, just the top 2 that you can grab. Move them up into a 4 pin. And again, make another one. And this one I'm going to put up here. I'm going to skip a pin and then put it on the next one up from our center. Now I'll go ahead and take the top 2, move them up on each side. into a 4-pin. Now do the same thing again. 3 bands. Pull through 4. When these will go on the loom, we'll skip a pin, put them on, and I'll grab the top 2, move them down, look like more than 2. So like that, we have our ones on the end that are just kind of hanging there for now, and then we're really going to work on just kind of the center portion right here until we get a little further along. So what we want to do is put on each little 4-pin, we're going to do a row around. And it's 2 bands. I really do love this star. I think it's super awesome. So like that, row around each of the 4 pins for our 3 center points. And then you'll go and flip the bottom 2 bands all the way around on each of the pins. Flip them up over the top. And push down. Do another row all the way around our centers again. Still 2 bands. I remember the first year that Rainbow Loom got huge, Rob at Justin's Toys, he did a contest for making a star, and I was kind of not like totally into the social media yet and didn't really know a whole lot about it, but it was like afterwards I'd made a star after the contest had ended, and he's like, why didn't you enter it? I'm like, I didn't know. He's a good guy. Like that. So this is our second row all the way around. This time you'll flip the bottom 4 on every pin. Push everything down. So now we need to do some expanding. So we're going to start on the middle one first. And I'm just going to take the top, this upper right, I'm going to grab the top 2 bands. Grab them. Top 2 bands and pull them up a pin. There's no crossing of the bands, the outside bands right here. It just comes over. And then over on the other side, I'm going to grab all 4 bands on the top left, pull those up a pin, like that. Then I'll come down to the lower left, grab the top 2, and pull them up, like that. And then you kind of want to find your center cap band, those 3 bands we wrapped around, and kind of start pulling that up. We want to make sure that it stays up because the design for the points grows up. So like that. So that's our center expanded. So we'll come down to the lower one. I'm going to bring these top 2 bands on the upper right up. And then over here, I'm going to grab the top, or all 4 bands, all 4 bands, bring them up a pin. And then I'll come down to the lower left one and just bring the top 2 up. Like that. So And we'll come up to the other one up here. For this one, we'll grab the top 2 bands, pull them up a pin, then on the top left, grab all 4 bands, pull them up, then the lower left, we'll grab the top 2 and bring them up. Get my other centers out here. They're still going to kind of fall in. It's not super crucial yet that they're pointed the right way. So like that. So now we're going to do a row around each one of the 6-pin now portions. 2 bands. I had some really funky fails trying to make this too. They're like all weirdly shaped, and pretty sure one of them had legs and arms, and one looked like a leaf. Alright, row around each, and then when you flip, you're going to either be flipping the bottom 4 or the bottom 2. It'll just depend on where it is that we expanded. You just want to leave 4 bands on the pin when you're done flipping. I made a star a long time ago too, and it was humongous and oddly shaped and took like 1,000 bands, and this is much better. Alright, push everything down. So now what we need is a row on just the center. So another row, just the center, 6 pins. And these bands, if you're wondering, are just like a dual layer hot pink orange color. So row just on the center, flip the bottom 4 all the way around. Push everything down. I'm grab my point again, pull it up. Like that. Alright, so now what we need to do is we're going to take the bands on these 2 pins, and we're going to move them up to right on top of our center. I'm going to grab all 4 bands, move them up. Like that. Then we're going to come up here to this one, take all 4 bands on the first pins closest to our middle and move them down. Like that. So now what we want to do is you're going to go in through the top 4 bands on the corner pins for our center. Go in through the top 4 bands, grab the bottom 4 bands, pull them up through, and then we're going to take these 4 pins or 4 bands off of the pin. And then our bands that we have on our hook, we're going to put those back onto the pin where they were. That looks like this. It's wrapped around that little center part there. So you do that on all 4 pins on the corners, through the middle, pull them up, slide off the bands, and put the ones on your hook back onto the pin. Same thing up here, grab the bottom 4, pull them up, back on. Like that. So once you have that, we're going to do our eye row. So you want your eyes, but first, before we start doing that eye row, the bands that need to go across right here on the end of our center point, they need to go underneath of these points that we pulled in from the side. So if you take your hook and make sure that the part is pointing up, slide it through. Kind of this one, I'm going to twist it towards me a little bit, and I can take those 2 bands, set it on the hook, and then I can pull it through underneath. Once I get close to the loom on the left side, I can put the bands on, and then just use the hook to pull it all the way through, and then put them on the right side. And do the same thing up right here. Hook's pointed up. Put the 2 bands on, pull it through. When I get close to the loom, I'll put the bands on the left side, pull it all the way through, and then onto the right. So now we have the bands on the ends of our 6-pin. We can put our bands on the back side, so 2 and 2 here. And the front side right here, we're going to put our eyes. And like I said, I'm going to use the larger 9mm pony beads this time to see how they look. Sometimes bigger eyes make them look more adorable. The small ones look good too. So I'm just pushing the bands through my beads. It'll probably look hideous. I've used my dual layer bands. Alright, so bands underneath on the ends. Make sure you put the bands on the back side and then the eyes on the front side. And then we'll go and flip the bottom 4 all the way around. And just be careful on the ends here, because the 4 that we pulled under, or the 2 that we pulled underneath, they can sometimes overlap the bottom and they get kind of jumbled up. So just make sure that you have the bottom 4 on the corners before you flip them. Push everything down. Now what we're going to do is take our next pins on our points that we have on the outside and bring those up towards the center. And they should stretch far enough, so I'm just going to pick up the bands off this pin right here, pull them up. On the other side, pull those up. And I'll do the same thing up here, only pulling them back towards me, right on top of that corner. So like that. And then once again, you're going to go through the top 4 bands, grab those bottom 4, pull them up through, slide off those bands that we moved up, and then put the bands that are on your hook back onto the pin. And then do that on the 4 corners. Make sure you get all the bands back on the pin. Like that. just like that. Still have one set of bands way back on our point on each end, and then we still have our middle 6 we're working on. Next is going to be our cheek row, so you want your cheeks, but again we're first going to start out by pulling those bands underneath on the ends. So right here, hook pointed up, 2 bands, pull them through. Both ends. Like that. Then we'll put our bands on our back side. And then on the front side by the eyes, it'll be our cheeks. Just take those, put them on. So like that. Once again, we're going to flip the bottom 4 on our 6 middle pins here. Again, make sure you only get the bottom 4 on the corners. Pull that down. Now we want your mouth, which is just a band, any color you want the mouth to be. I'm going to turn it so the face is away from me. It's easier for me. I'll put the band on my hook, wrap it around once to double it, and take it off and hold it that way. I'm going to go in through the 4 bands here in between on the pin in between the cheeks. Grab that band, pull it up through, and then up over the top of the pin. And then I'll pull it down so it's wrapped around. And then once I have it there, I'll flip it up over the top. So it looks like that. And now we're going to move in our last ones on these points up here. So here's where you want to dig out that point. So find that cap band that we made the 3 bands with. And you kind of want to unstick all this stuff that's on the pins as best you can. And then what we're going to do is bring up these and bring them up to the corner. So I'll grab these over here, and I'm holding on to my center here for my point, bringing it up. Do the same thing on the other side, bring it up. Like that. You'll do the same thing on the other end. Find that center. Because if you don't find the center, the point will kind of collapse in on itself, and then your star will be kind of deformed. So I want to hang on to that when we move these ones forward. So once again, we want to move the bottom 4 up on top of the ones we moved. So go through the top 4, grab the bottom 4, pull them up through. This time make sure you hang on to them as you're pulling them up through. Then you can pull these off, and then the ones that are on your hook will go back onto the pin. Do that on all 4 corners. Through the top 4, grab the bottom 4, pull them up, and then put the other ones back onto the pin. Like that. So look at how awesome it is. You almost have half of it, a little more than half done. Alright, so now what we want to do is we're going to bring in our ones that we put down here to save our points. Just grab them, bring them up so that they're about a pin away from our center. Do that on both ends. Like that. Spread them out to 4 pins. So grab the top 2 again like before, or any 2. I'm going to bring these up a pin, and then down here I'll grab the top 2, bring them down a pin, same thing on this side. So once again we have these points that we got to work on real quick first. So we're going to do, it'll be 2 rows around each of the 4 points on the end with the 2 bands. So this will be our first row. Put the ones on up here. Like that. It's our first row. Flip the bottom 2. Push down. And we'll do another row around each of the 4 pins. Like that. Now we'll flip the bottom 4 this time on our 4 pins. Push everything down. So we need to expand again. So for this one down here, I'm going to pick up the top 2 bands on the upper right and bring them up a pin. Then over on the other side, I'm going to grab all 4 bands, bring them up a pin on the top one, and then the lower left, I'll grab the top 2 bands and bring them up towards the middle. Like that. So that's expanded. Then we'll go up to this one up here. So for this one, I'm going to grab the lower right, bring all 4 bands down. I'll grab the top 2 on those ones I just moved down and bring them back up towards the center. Then over here, on the left, I'm going to grab the lower left, take all 4 bands, move them down. And then I'm going to grab the upper left, top 2, and move those down towards the middle. Like that. So then we'll do a row all the way around our 6 pin points on the end. We were gone overnight the other night visiting family and left the cats here with plenty of food and water, of course, but when we came back earlier, you'd think that they we've left them for like years because they were all freaked out and running around and jumping and being weirdos. So now I have a cat sleeping on my foot, and she keeps like biting me. So I'm trying not to make sure I scream. So like this. So then again, it'll be either be flipping the bottom 2, like on here, or the bottom 4, just so you're leaving 4 bands on the pin. Push everything down. Alright, so now we're going to start on closing up the bottom part of the star. And to do that, push these down here. We're going to again grab these bands that are on these 2 pins closest to our middle star here. I'm going to grab all 4, move them up. Grab all 4 over here, move them up. Do the same thing on the other end. Grab all 4, move them up. Grab all 4 here, move them down, down, we're going down. So like that. And then once again on the 4 corners, go in through the top 4, grab the bottom 4, pull them up through, and then take the other bands off the pin. And then put the 4 bands on your hook back onto the pin. Do that on all 4 corners. I think I missed a band, maybe. Gotta make sure to get them all. There we go. So we're going to do a row around, and again we need to go underneath on the ends to pull those bands through. So hook through, put the 2 bands on, pull them through, do that on both ends. That, so the bands underneath, and then just fill up the sides with the 2 bands. Like that. Then we'll flip the bottom 4 all the way around. Again, be careful on those corners. Push everything down. Looking so awesome. Alright, so this next part, we're going to bring up these points, but they need to go in the bands that are going to go in between on the sides. So this gets kind of tricky just because once you pull the bands through and you pull them up here, then it kind of, one side of it gets really small and you have to try and get it on the loom. So just take your time with this part. But I'm going to take 2 bands. I'm going to put my hook through the bands that are on the pin, on that second one down, or second one up, depending on how you look at it. I'm going to hook those 2 bands, pull them up through, and I'm going to keep one end of my hook and one end of my finger. You can put them both on your hook if you want, Just kind of watch to see what I do with them before you decide there. So I'm going to take them off the pin while they're still hanging on to it. I'm going to stretch it way up here. The one on my finger is going to go in that middle pin, and then the one on my hook needs to go on this lower one. So I'm going to pull it up, get that on there, like that. So it kind of really pulls it down, but that's the way I want it to look like. And when you do that for all of the next parts of the point. So again, I'll take my 2 bands, pull them up through, and hang on to it, take them off, and pull them up. So I have that lower side done, now I'll do the upper side. Those 2. And then up here, it's the same thing, just this one goes on the center. And the other one will go on the far side. Same thing. There we go. Like that. So now, once you are here, what we're going to do is on these corner pins, you're going to go in through the top 4 bands, grab the bottom 2 bands, and pull them up through the center and bring them towards the middle. Do the same thing on this one. Go through the top 4 bands, grab the bottom 2, pull them up through, bring them towards the center. Do the same thing on the other side. Through the top 4, grab the bottom 2, pull them up through, towards the center. And then the other corner, towards the center. So now, what you're going to do is you're going to, all the bands that are open should be on the center pin on the front and the back. So these can pop off. So now what you want to do is you have those on the pin, you have your 4 bands, divide these up here if I can. You have the 4 bands that we just put on there from reducing. Then there's the 4 bands from that kind of partial side row we put on, and then there's the bottom 4 bands from the row way back when. What you want to do is we want to leave those top 4 bands from the reducing that we just did. So you go in, grab, I think it's easiest to grab that middle 4 bands from that half row we did, flip those up and over, and then grab the bottom, very bottom 4 and flip those over. So you're only leaving 4 bands on the pin. And do that same thing on the other side. So find your bands that you reduced first. And get that second set of 4, and then the bottom set. And push those down. So now you just have 4 bands in the center, on the front and back, on the star portion. So now what we want to do is we want to take these parts that are way out there and we want to bring them in and put them right on top of that center. So once again, I'm going to push this down as far as it'll go. Then you want to go and find that center cap band. Pull it up. Unhook things from the pins as best as you can. So I'm kind of riding right on top there. And then, kind of hanging on to that center, I'm going to move these up, these 4 bands up towards the center. So I'm going to grab them, pull them up there. I'll do that on both sides, towards the center. So it looks like that. And push all those down. Then you're going to do the same thing on the other end. So unhook everything. Find that center cap band to hang on to. Sorry about my furnace, it's now winter time here. Very cold. And it's annoyingly loud. And I'm right on the other side of the wall from it, so that doesn't help either. So hang on to your point while you move those ends down towards the center. Alright, so once you get to here, we are just about done. All you need to do now is find those bottom 4 bands that we left on the pin and flip those up over the top. And you're going to leave all those other bands on the pin. Do the same thing on the front side. Find the bottom 4. And they're probably kind of tight. So just take your time. Like that. So now we're ready to take this guy off the loom. Crazy! So I'm just going to take my hook, go in through all the bands that are on the pin, pull them off, then come around the back side, put my hook in that side, put them off. Then I'll take 2 bands, pull them through everything on my hook, make a slip knot, pull tight, and then I'll take the tail band by sticking my hook up through the back side or the front side, somewhere way up there, coming out right next to my knot, grabbing those tail bands, pulling them up through. Then you kind of have to pull that part in pretty well to, you want to hide that bottom portion. Pull it in good, and then you'll have to probably hide your tail band a little bit more. But then, once you're here, you can stretch out the little points even more, so you have a little bit more definition. Super adorable! And then for like, in this area, you may have some bands that like right here, they're a little twisted just from how they were flipped over the pin. I mean, you can fix all of that by just taking your hook and getting in there and pulling them tighter. When I used, these are kind of jelly-ish bands, but they're kind of sticky too, so they successfully hid any of the bands that kind of poked out. I know when I did this one on the yellow, the bands that were on the back side here, there was, from that very last half row we did, there were some that were kind of poked out a little bit farther than I liked, so I just took my hook and stuck them through and then pulled them tighter. But that was really the only portions that I thought were needed to be adjusted. And you can always pull your, take your hook and pull these up tighter. There's a lot of stretching and pulling, especially towards the end, so might have to adjust a little bit there, but I didn't have too much of an issue with it, or where I thought it was too bad where I need to start again, so adjust my mouth, make him smiley. So what do you think? Big eyes, little eyes? Maybe little eyes, maybe big eyes, not totally sure. Either way, I think they're both super cute. So I'm pretty stoked with how they turned out. I hope that you agree, and I hope that it wasn't too difficult to make. I know I might have went a little fast. Sorry about that. It's just I know how I've made a few of them now, and this time I had the opportunity to film right after I made them, so it was kind of like it's all fresh in my mind instead of having to look at all my directions. So that was good for me. But just remember, you can always pause videos when you're watching the tutorial so you can kind of catch up to wherever I'm at. So that was it. I'm going to grab my knot and pull it up some more to close up the leg. There, that's better. That's better. Super adorable. I love them. I'm super excited that I was able to make it all in the loom completely, except for the little parts for the points, but who's counting? But I really love these. I think they're awesome, and hopefully my Russian channel won't steal them from me right away, but we shall see. But I want to thank you guys very much for watching. Your support definitely means a lot to me. I really appreciate it immensely. I hope that you make some of these and maybe a nice little garland for Christmas or something. Who knows? Or a little tree. Maybe it'll be another tree coming. Who knows? But thank you guys so much. If you make some of these or do some decorating with them, you can share them with me on my Instagram, which is at Crafting Fantastic, or on my Facebook page, which is feelinspiffy or Crafting Fantastic. They both should find me. And then, of course, don't forget to give my videos thumbs up so that other people can find them as well, because that helps with the YouTube searches, so it makes it a little bit easier. But thank you again, and I will have more tutorials for you soon.